Setting up shop.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm sure you've missed us. You've missed us so much that some of you have forgotten we exist and are probably listening to this weeks after the episode was released. But it's lovely to have you here anyway. If you are new to the podcast, if this is your first time listening to us, then welcome. We're on season 5. Really doesn't matter. Feel free to dip in and out of which episodes you like. I wouldn't necessarily go by the title. We're not great at writing titles. You'll have to listen to them all. That's the caveat, really. Welcome to you all. So for those who are not familiar, I'm Dan. I'm the main host of this podcast, and I'm a woodturner from the UK. And with me, as always, are my lovely co-hosts, Heidi Jacobs, a potter from the USA.
Hey there.
And the Rasmus Loen. He is a blacksmith from Norway. Hello, Rasmus.
Hello.
So, as it has been it's been a little while since we've spoken to each other, but also at the end of last season, there were various things going on which meant that Heidi couldn't join us for a couple of episodes, and we would normally at the end of a season have a stop and a catch up with where where each of us are in our respective journeys. So this episode is going to be a catch up, not a ketchup, or it is a catch up, however you like it, with each of us, and just where we are, the goals that we might have set at the beginning. Are they still true? Have the boundaries moved? Have they failed considerably? Have we been found sobbing on the floor in the corner of our homes by our loved ones? Or have we just bought more anvils? What is the situation?
I feel called out already.
What, being sobbing in the corner of the room?
Well, yes, on my pile of anvils.
On your pile of anvils. You don't have a pile of anvils anymore. You were telling me. You were telling us that you've sold most of your pile of anvils.
Yeah, it's now a very flat pile. It's not so piley anymore.
More like a herd.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
A flock of anvils.
Okay.
Do they also have fun hairstyles?
Yeah, that's why I was exactly where I went, Heidi, as well. Flock of Anvils would have been much more of a metal band, I think, than Flock of Seagulls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Heidi, since it has been a while since the lovely listeners have heard your dulcet tones, whereabouts are you in the old scheme of things for this year? How do you feel that your goals are? Are you reaching them? Have you adjusted anything? All that kind of good stuff.
Well, I don't remember if I talked about this or not. I may have at some point, but the biggest change that I have made is I updated my pricing. And gosh, I was so nervous to do that. And I think we've all kind of talked about that experience of like, oh, when should I? I don't know. Maybe.
What if they don't like me anymore?
What if they don't want my things? But with the tariffs coming to play, and a lot of the material was already over COVID, had already increased in being able to purchase the raw materials for my wares. I had kind of absorbed a lot of that cost, and I recognized like I'm not going to be able to do that this time if costs go up again. So I needed to make some adjustments, not major adjustments, but pretty big increases comparatively to like what you would do year over year. So because I hadn't raised my prices since like 2017, there was it was a pretty big jump after I did the analysis to say like, okay, I can absorb this because it takes me less time to do. But I can't absorb this because the cost of just starting the project is more.
So percentage-wise, sorry, you're probably literally about to say that, but percentage-wise, I mean, on average, it could be an annual increase could be classed as anything between 2.5% and sort of 7%, depending on your business. That would be normal.
Yeah.
So what percentage-wise are we talking that you had to take a jump on to, in effect, stay in control and stay flat?
Sure. It would be like, for most things, it was a 5% increase.
Okay. Yeah.
But other things were able to stay as is because they had been priced pretty favorably for me. So I was able to not increase prices on the smaller things that the price was where it was because it took me so much time to do. But now that I've invested in machinery and everything, they're faster to do. So then I was able to absorb a little bit.
Yeah.
The thing that was hard for me to also consider was like, I'm still paying off some equipment. So like, even though I could absorb because it's taking less time, I had to be mindful that I was still capturing the cost of, you know, financing that equipment. But you know, it took me a while to do, but the clients that I've shared the pricing with, that have been consistent clients with me, just were like, totally understand, we get it, and we're not shy about the next few orders, and that was great. So that was really positive. The other thing that I think we've touched on a few times is like that I was having some health issues at the end of last year. And I've been trying to be more proactive about avoiding the things that might have spurred the health issues on, including just, you know, I had this mindset that if every waking moment of the day wasn't spent being productive, that I was somehow failing at my business or wasn't as serious about my commitment to my business. And that's a really tough thing for somebody like me to, you know, kind of have your body tell you that that's not sustainable. I mean, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I mean, it's not healthy. It's not sustainable from, you know, this, that, or the other thing. But so much of my identity was wrapped up in like the early morning wake up and the ritual of, you know, starting my day with work and finishing really late at night with work. But having that forced time off, I don't know, just solidify that I do need to make some changes to my behaviors that I don't know, like I'm a work in progress. We'll just put it like that. So just a little background on, you know, the residual things that I'm going through is I have developed, they're called essential tremors. So my hands shake. I have a head wobble, and that's typically brought on by fatigue. If I drink too much caffeine, if I have heavy levels of stress, and it's like immediate. Like as soon as I like hit those benchmarks for like any of those three categories, I'm like a mess. So I was kind of lamenting about it yesterday to a friend of mine because I was so used to behaving like I'm 22.
Yeah.
And now it's caught up with me. And it's a very difficult behavior to change when for 43 years, that's been my MO and that's been my personality and everything that like I see myself as. And to take a step back and, you know, have these like key indicators of like, you need to sit is really hard for me because I typically would just historically power through it. And I can't do that anymore. So it's a huge change for me and it's very hard.
It's fascinating because if any of our long-term listeners will be aware of earlier episodes where you have literally spoken about, oh yeah, but I get up at like whatever time it was in the morning and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this and I've got to do that because I've got these on and it was, you know, I remember us saying at the time, and you even alluded to just then about, is, you know, how sustainable is this? And you saying, oh, not at all. It's not sustainable at all. Or, you know, I'll only do this for the periods of time in the run up to Christmas or whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, but doing that at all for as many years as you did it, the fact that it, you know, your body, as you say, and I can totally understand, it's a change of personality. It's just taking your body to recognize. It's almost like your body has biologically said, she ain't going to stop unless we do something, guys. Like we've got to club together on this one. What can we do to make her realize and stop without like complete fatality? How can we like, you know, like who's going to take a dive for this one so that we can all just have a rest? And we are, and we are absolutely glad to see that, it's not as bad as it could have been. There could have been a lot worse things that could have happened, but it still sucks that, you have got ongoing issues from it. And as you said, being a work in progress is got to always be how we all are, isn't it? Whether
Yeah.
it's physical or mental, like there's got to be that acknowledgement that at the end of the day, right, all of us who are doing this as a side job alongside working full time and potentially having a family and all of the rest of it, we've got to acknowledge the fact that we are a little bit crazy. We've got to acknowledge the fact that, there aren't enough hours in the day for you to do absolutely everything. You're going to have to prioritize something one over the other. And we've discussed that in previous episodes. And the one thing that we should never, ever stop prioritizing is the personal health, mental or physical, because otherwise you won't get to do or interact with the people, do the things you love, interact with the people you love, or any of that kind of stuff. There's a big difference between like pushing yourself and breaking yourself.
Oh yeah.
And finding the line between those can be exceptionally difficult. So, I get where you're coming from in the sense of, oh, I've got to sit back now and I hate it.
Yeah.
My identity was this, and I'm now being told that you can't do that anymore. So you've got to reshape it. And that's very tricky, particularly if everyone you know and love has only ever known you as that kind of a person.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Rasmus is a man I know who has huge amounts of lists of goals and everything in your software known as Notion. How is this year going for you compared to where you thought it was going to be going for you?
This is funny because I have sort of no idea because I didn't write down any goals in Notion.
Well, that's a different start.
Yeah. No, I don't think I actually properly written down anything. I think I just internalized it and spoken about it on the podcast, sort of what would be the goals of things. But
okay.
No, I mean, April for me was a month where I worked a shit ton, but also turned over twice as much as I did in March, and more than any other months ever by a good margin.
Excellent.
And then promptly spent all of it on getting more stuff. So yeah, like it's the funny thing because like, yeah, business was doing good, and then I get a phone call and it's like, oh, do you want to buy a lot of coal, like really cheaply, good quality? I was like, maybe. I have people asking for coal. What's the price? And then I buy 5 tons of it.
Yeah, because why would you buy a small amount?
Yeah, because then I got a bigger discount and I spend more money because that's sensible or something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, no, just, it is kind of wild. April had just been wild. I have worked a shit ton, but inside all of that as well is I have been able to take nearly a whole week off.
Who is this person and what have you done with Rasmus? And even better there, dear listeners, is that his screen's frozen and we've lost him, and also potentially the video recording as well. So we've lost his audio, we've lost his video. I think we should just keep ours going at the moment, Heidi. There we go.
Okay. I think we're right.
So I'd literally just asked you, who is this person and what have you done with Rasmus? And then your audio cut out after your screen having frozen.
Oh, fun. No, Chrome just shit the carpet on me. It just,
Shit the carpet.
yeah, it just, I saw myself freeze and I was like, what's going on? And then just, boom, all gone.
Oh.
Excellent. So is everything still good, your end recording, audio and visual?
The Hangout is still recording and my audio is still recording. So that's
Marvelous.
all right.
Well, let's carry on then.
Let's timestamp that.
Yeah.
Well, you can timestamp it, or it'll be a lovely little Easter egg. The first person who tells us that they have witnessed this situation happening will get a free sticker sent to them when we eventually make them.
Or something.
Or something.
Yeah.
No, don't say or something. It'll be a free sticker. That's what they'll get. They'll get a sticker sent to them. The first person who say, let's say we're going to give it a magic word, which I'll conveniently forget by the time this episode comes up.
On brand.
yeah, absolutely. We'll just say Rasmus screwed up. And then when we get that message, we'll have to quantify, and we'll go from there. And whoever gets there first will get a free sticker. So there you go. Nice little built-in Easter egg, and that minimizes any editing that Rasmus has to do.
Hooray.
Hooray! So how's that for efficiency? Carrying on then. Okay, so you ended up buying a huge amount of coal, which has that been delivered yet?
No. It should have gotten into Norway today, and then I'll probably get it Monday or Tuesday, hopefully.
Okay. And you've definitely had it confirmed that all 5 tons of it are not coming in just a trailer being tipped out. It's definitely bagged up, right?
Yes, it's being bagged up. It's 1 pallet a ton.
Okay.
And yeah, it should all just be very nice and easy to just drop outside the forge and leave there for a while. Well, hopefully not too long, because I want to sell it.
I was going to say, for your sake, I hope they actually put it a lot closer to the other side where you're going to be storing it rather than just outside the door of the forge.
That's the other thing. The garage is kind of full. Because today I did get delivered 6 pallets of things from the UK.
Okay.
Yeah, including 2 fly presses, an anvil, 3 leg vices, a bunch of machinist vices, and dust collection.
For those of you listening in the greater Scandinavian area, that is Scandinavia and Norway. If you aren't already aware and you are either interested in blacksmithing or have a friend who is interested in blacksmithing, then do contact Rasmus, because he is doing his very best to corner the market in selling anvils and fly presses and all the tooling and all of the materials and everything else. And that's as much of a free plug as we're going to give him on this episode.
Thank you.
Otherwise, he'll have to start sponsoring it.
Oh, is that an option?
Yeah, of course that's an option. That's always an option. It would be a bit weird, but it's definitely an option.
Sponsors himself.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I have one more thing. Yeah,
go on.
as well.
Go on.
I've also now had a welder work for me for a month. Not entirely full time, but like 3-4 days a week.
Yeah.
And doing all of the metal gluing things and drilling things that I can't be arsed with.
So from that point of view, then, so just to give a bit of context there, because we know a little bit of the backstory here. You is it that you were offered a job that required a lot of welding, and then you sought this guy out, or you already knew of him, and then this job came along because you knew you could pitch for it, or?
Yeah, basically. It's an old friend of mine. We've known each other for 5 years or something. And he's done a few welding jobs for me off and on over the years. But now the company he worked for went bankrupt, so he is on
freelance.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Norway. He still has like some kind of welfare money coming in to cover like the cost until he gets a new job and all of that.
Okay.
So he's basically spending his time working for me, which is really nice, because it's kind of the really nice trial period for both of us, me being a boss and just handing out drawings and sketches and telling him to do things, while I'm in the office catching up on all of the office work that I have piled up over the last maybe 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's just a never-ending amount of office work. Like today, I published the last new products that I got delivered a month ago.
Okay.
Because now is the time I actually could sit down and do it, and there was nothing else urgent to take care of.
Yeah.
So that's fun. And I also ended up starting the market season a month earlier with 2 new markets, which was a stupid combination, because one of them was 3 hours south of Oslo into Sweden, and the other one is half an hour north of Oslo, and it's Saturday and Sunday respectively.
And also 2 different types of product you were selling.
Yes, as well. So leaves me driving down to Sweden after work on Friday, sleeping at a hotel there, packing up for the day, spending 7 hours at that market, pitching everything down, driving 3 hours back home, spending 2 hours repacking the car, going home, sleeping, and then getting up to another market.
So I'd just like to draw your attention to a good friend of ours known as Heidi, who for many years has and her body has told her recently that this isn't going to be feasible anymore. Just mentioning, given how physical your job is without doing markets and stuff as well. You just need to realize, Raz, as much as we give you stick for being the youngest, that will always be true because we will always get older, but you're getting older too.
Yeah, just more slowly than you guys.
I don't know, with all the extra dancing and the humping and bumping of 5 tons of coal and all of that kind of stuff.
there's that.
It'll catch up. It'll catch up to you.
Is there any way that you could like split your stock and have somebody else cover the other event?
Oh, yeah, I could. For next year, I'll not be doing both of them if it's just the same kind of thing. But chances are they'll be on different weekends next year.
Yeah,
that should help a fair bit.
Yeah.
But like the other one is that the Sunday one was basically just a small social machinist meetup thing, and I basically just showed up because it didn't really cost me anything, and I was hoping to have this pile of advices and shit now delivered 2 weeks ago so I could bring it to this market. But that didn't work out. So I sort of ended up going to this market almost empty-handed. I showed up with, I brought the anvils and blacksmithing tools. I didn't really sell anything to this market, apart from a couple of like the scaling bananas, because they always sell, especially with older men.
Yeah.
But it's nice, it's fun, it's social. I got a nice couple of contacts, including a guy that can probably help me resurface all of the anvils I get in if I need to.
Excellent.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So it's more like, this was a social thing. This was getting sort of tapping into a different market,
isn't it? It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and like I sold for like 150 quid at that market, and the fee was 30. So it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Not good, but
Paid for a sandwich.
I mean, it did. And as I said, it's social, getting contacts. A lot of people said they were interested in buying grinders down the line and taking classes with me. So it's just one of those things where you just you need to keep going out there and doing all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of Dan's talk today on the Instagram about like putting the work in. Like you're not going to get a benefit if you just stayed at home. So it's good that you put the work in and put yourself out there.
Yeah. And even if, at least my thinking is, even now, if I don't do this market next year, let's pretend then it's an option for the year after, then I'm already have a foot in this community. They already know about me. It means if when I'm posting about the tools I get in, which I will later today or tomorrow or something, then they already know me. I will have some people who I've now added on Facebook that will see me more easily, that will comment on this, and it helps sort of spread the word, and it gives some credibility to this. So like just showing up once suddenly can have a massive impact on the business long term. Not a whole lot immediately, but over the years, hopefully.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's always interesting to get another into an adjacent kind of group of people who you didn't realize, oh, you'd want this too. Oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my setup for the year, it's been quite different in some respects. So it was started with the fact that my my carriage of choice of van died, complete permadeath. So, and we just don't have the funding for me to be able to replace it at the moment, which I thought would be okay, and it still is to a certain extent. I have a vehicle to be able to commute to the day job. That's fine. But it's very frustrating when you go, oh, I'll just take this out to the, oh no, I can't, it won't fit in that vehicle. Or, oh, I'll just go and do that. No, that would break that vehicle. I can't put that in there. And, there have been a few times where, for instance, Rasmus and I have seen some stuff that he would probably like blacksmithing wise that's local to me that I could normally go and pick up for him and whatever. And I can't because I don't have a vehicle. So I'm having to investigate options on that. And one of the things that has also driven me to do, interestingly enough, I have always been a firm believer, probably from the way I grew up and the way it was instilled in me, that if you haven't got the money, you can't buy it. Okay, so the only caveat to that being is, you've got a monthly credit card, but you should have enough money to pay that credit card bill off when it comes in the following month, and your mortgage, because realistically, no one can afford to buy a house outright for cash. And this whole situation and a couple of other things in our lives has kind of forced me to assess that a lot more and say, well, hang on a minute, you've got to make a choice here. You've either got to save up enough money to buy a van, which even secondhand now, we're not talking massive, right? We're talking like the smallest kind of car van type thing you can get. If you want a secondhand one of those of any make that is under 70,000 miles on the clock, you are talking round about a £7,000 price if it's in good condition.
Ooh.
Okay, you can, don't get me wrong, you can buy a complete junky kind of dents all over the place. It's failed its MOT, but it needs a bit of work doing to it, blah blah blah. You can buy them 500 quid, you can buy them for £2,000. You can, there's a whole gamut up there. But if I'm getting a vehicle, then it doesn't make an awful lot of sense to buy a really cheap one and then for it to potentially break down in 3 or 6 months or a year, and then have to buy another one or keep paying out money. I have even gone down the Al Hack Shack route of looking at brand new, like literally brand new from scratch route. How much would I have to pay and all this kind of stuff? And for the same size vehicle, you're looking at nearly 3 times the amount of money in total. So your initial down payment is a lot bigger. Well, your initial down payment's the total cost of what the second-hand vehicle would be. So I am having to sort of seriously consider, do I look at paying a deposit to a second-hand dealership and then a monthly fee over 4 years, which does mean you're paying more than the total value. Now, the interesting factor to that for me is the realization that if I do not have a solidified date for something such as a market, or hey, you've got a bill that next month is coming out that's, let's say, £150, then I don't necessarily put the effort into to generate the revenue or generate the product unless I've got that deadline. So in a really weird roundabout way, if I did go down this route of paying monthly after a deposit for a vehicle, that might actually be the inspiration that the pokey stick needed to make me work harder and complete commissions faster, and make sure I've booked those demonstrations and all of that kind of stuff, so that I will actually then generate the revenue, because I've got a bill and the bill needs to be paid, and it needs to be paid through the business, not through the personal accounting. So that's a bit of a weird one. But interesting the way, all of a sudden when that kind of thing happens, how you can then reevaluate a way of thinking that I've had drummed into me pretty much since birth. So that's been quite a work in progress, as you mentioned, Heidi. But from the actual 12-month plan, as it were, I had quite broad strokes for mine this year. I'm looking at it above my screen, and I had quarter one was change the brand, update the website, update the social media, get a better logo, change all your domains, update your business cards, update your Google page, make sure you find an accountant. I completed all of those before the end of quarter one. So I was like, oh, fantastic. This is going really well. And we're now in quarter two. And out of the 7 things on there, I have crossed 2 of them out as not being relevant. I've added a different one back in, which I have done. And I have done, so out of the 5 that were left on there, I've done 1 out of 5. One of the other things on there is question marked is getting a second lathe, and that is on its way to me at some point. But it is coming to me from someone else. And it is, the ball is entirely in their court as to when they want to choose the time to come and deliver it to me. And they've currently been called away to work with some family or something. So I don't really have control over that, but it's not necessarily costing me a great deal of money. So I'm kind of going, that's fine. It's not important right now that I get that. But the other things on that list are things like improving my marketing and reaching out to shops and all of that kind of stuff. And I've just not really progressed with any of that at all. and I've put barriers in the way, and I've procrastinated. But I have completed some commissions. But the really, really odd one, much similar to yourself, I think I took a leaf out of your book on this, Rasmus. So we went to an event a couple of weekends ago, local to us, which was called in the UK, it's called a steam rally. And it's a big field where people will come along and they will bring their vintage or made in the vintage style steam engines. And these can be traction engines, these can be steam rollers, these can be the tiny little like ones that looks like, you know, a giant pedal car that you sat on. They can be the stationary engines where they're literally just like steam powered water pump type thing. But these events tend to also end up with classic cars all getting there. And then what else is there? They will have craft markets. They have some markets of selling stuff all related to like secondhand tools and all that kind of thing. I sent Rasmus a few pictures. We were there on the last day, and I walked past this guy, and he had for sale, he had a full Bridgeport mill for sale that had sold. He had a metal bending roller machine that had sold. And like a 3-phase bandsaw. Like this guy just basically brought like parts from a workshop that he just wanted to shift on, and most of the big stuff had sold because he was obviously doing it at good prices. So I didn't get to see what he'd done it at because he'd already sold it. So yeah, it's a very eclectic thing, and there will be arenas and people will do demonstrations and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, we went into the craft tent, and one end of it was people selling, and the other end of it was people demonstrating and displaying. And there was a very clear divide between the two. The people demonstrating and displaying, 90% of them were model makers. So whether it's remote controlled stuff or whether it was dioramas and this kind of thing. And that's cool if that's your sort of thing. But, you know, I walked past a lot of that quite quickly. It wasn't necessarily very interactive, but yeah, it was great fun. And then I stopped the demonstration in the middle of the craft thing that I stopped by was the Somerset Guild of Weavers, and can't remember the other. There's 3 things. It was weavers, something and something, all associated with basically making cloth, weavers, spinners, and something or other. So it's like literally taking the raw product of wool and going from wool to making a cloth at the end of it. And I've got a vague knowledge of this, partly from our friend Crafts with Ellen, and partly with having visited a few things like this before. And the reason why I stopped was because I saw a thing on the table, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that certainly the center part of it was turned on a lathe. So I just said to them, just out of interest, what's that for? And so they explained a bit to me, and I just casually said, oh, okay, that was just interesting. I just wanted to know because I'm a wood turner, and occasionally I'll get asked to make things for other trades. And that's, I wanted to know what that was so I could identify it in case I got asked in the future. That led to a conversation with all 3 of the ladies suddenly going, oh, that's really interesting. Oh, yeah, well, we've had a few wood turners in the past, but they don't necessarily know us. Can you guys can you do this? And have you ever made one of these and whatever? And I'm like, yeah, that's all fine. So I said, I'll send you on my details. I didn't have any business cards with me. I was gutted. I'd literally taken my last one out the day before. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Just get in touch. Like, we can have conversations about different things. And they meet once a month, like 2 villages away from where I live. So that was quite entertaining in it. So, but I've got their details, so I can get in contact with them if I want. But then one of them suddenly looked up and said, you need to meet Barry. And I'm sort of looking around going, okay. And she literally just dragged me by the arm and just dragged me over to this other part of this giant marquee where there is definitely not a gentleman stood around who may or may not be called Barry. And she said, oh, so-and-so, this guy needs to meet Barry. And this woman goes, okay. And she disappears. And I'm like, what is going on? And comes back in and she goes, Barry, this is Dan. He's a wood turner. You know that thing we were talking about yesterday? I think it'd be perfect. You two need to talk. I'll leave you here and I'll come back later. And she just walks off. And I'm like, hi? What
Okay.
is this? And the guy just starts talking to me as if I should know what he's talking about. about 5 minutes in, I suddenly cotton on that what he's basically getting to is, do I do demonstrations and would I want to demonstrate in their tent next year?
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like, oh, right. Okay. I said, I'm sorry. Now that I've caught up with what we're actually talking about, because it wasn't explained to me, I said, that's fine. And so we started our conversation, and about 40 minutes later, after having got a few messages from my wife saying, I'm outside at the, you guys, you just keep going, but I'm watching like a Land Rover display or something out in the in the center thing. It's like, okay. So I now am next year going to be at my first 4-day event, which is going to be this Steam market, or this craft market at the Steam Fair. And I was a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure this is really the crowd. But what he is after is, so the first day of this is open to the local schools. And the whole point is the schools can come in, they can have a go at stuff, they can watch stuff and whatever, and that's fine, that's great. But then the rest of the 3 days, he says, what we want is something a bit more dynamic. We want almost like an interactive, or at least questions to be able to be asked of this kind of demonstrations and stuff. He said, we've got the ladies doing the spinning and the weaving and stuff, and it's quite small scale. He said, are you going to be able to bring your lathe? Would you be able to? I said, yeah, that's all fine. I said, but will I be able to sell anything? He said, right. So this is where it gets political. Technically, we either have people who sell or people who demonstrate. He said, if you sell, you've got to pay for a stand. If you demonstrate, it's free. I said, that's fine. How much is it for this event? And he gave me a nominal figure, which I then said, is that per day? He said, no, that's for the whole 4 days. Let's just say it's slightly cheaper than I've paid for a 6-hour market on one day in the past. Yeah. And he said, right, that's the rate for a 6-foot table. I'm like, that's absolutely fine. If you want, I will pay that rate for the 6-foot table for selling. And then how much space can you give me for demonstrating? He said, how much do you want? I said, well, could I have 12 foot? He said, that's absolutely fine. So I'm getting a selling space and demonstrating space for 4 days. And I have no idea at all whether or not this will be worth my time. But if you don't try, you don't know.
Yeah.
And most importantly, what I will be able to do is put up lots of banners and sing about myself and say, hey, look, I do demonstrations, I do teaching. Come and chat to me about it. Even if you don't buy anything, you buy nothing off the stand, you can come and chat to me about those two things. The other craft holders that are there, the only other person doing woodwork is just doing chopping boards. They tend to be quite chunky. So I'm like, this is all good. I can probably make a lot of products that are skewed more towards the customer base that's likely to come in, and have some of my higher end stuff there as well. And I've got a year to prep for it. So as you can tell, I'm excited about that because that's way in the future. That's like a year away. I don't have to think about any of that. So that's exciting. So I completed Q1. Q2 is kind of like, and then Q3 I'm looking at now, and it's like, start making stock for Christmas. And you think about that, that's in July, start making stuff for Christmas. And I'm like, right, okay. Because I haven't even thought about designs for stuff. I haven't thought about any of that yet. So, but I've got time. It's fine. What could I possibly do other than put it all off?
Oh yeah, we got all the time in the world. It's just on the wrong side of the deadline.
Absolutely. But what I have done is I've given myself a deadline of the end of this month to complete all commissions that I've currently got on my books.
Oh, that's good.
So I've got 4 commissions currently outstanding. 1 that's waiting for spare parts, 1 that's waiting for a response from a customer, 1 that's waiting for me to tweak a tool that I was using that's not being effective. So I need to take an angle grinder to it when some discs arrive tomorrow. And then I'll be able to get that one done. And then other than that, I've got a quote to do for a certain Norwegian blacksmith. But other than that, I heard about that. Yeah. So I've kind of got, it's mixed levels. Some things have succeeded, some things have been pushed back, but you've got to try and be positive about that and just realize that, it doesn't matter how many plans you put out there, things have got to be able to be adaptable.
Yeah. All the time.
Everything needs to be adaptable every time and not get upset about it. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Is the emotional change and not going, oh, and like, oh, I'm a failure. No, you're not. Things change. Life happens. Stuff gets in the way. Vans blow up and leave you stranded on the motorway for 7.5 hours.
Yeah. All these fun things.
Our dishwasher went.
There you go.
It's
So
frustrating.
close to saying a really, no, I won't. No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Have you replaced it now?
Don't do it. Mother's Day's on Sunday. Leave me alone. Isn't it funny how life, like, we just got our income taxes back in the US. Like, our tax days in April, and we have to have all of our things filed. And we got a return back this year. First time in quite a few years that we got a return back, and we've had the money into the side, and then the dishwasher goes. And it's like, oh, well, so there goes that. It's just so great. But yeah, putting a lot of use into the laser, though, talking about
Nice.
things that I spent money on that's not broken. That's been a lot of fun. I did a new rolling pin. I did I tell you guys about the rolling pin, the first rolling pin that I did?
You told it was it the Pittsburgh skyline, or was this a different one?
The map of
the map
city?
one. Yeah, you showed us the map one. Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah.
So it took me 2 months since I did that test. I was illustrating iconography of Pittsburgh, which I'm really excited about. So outside of all of the wholesale stuff that I do and everything, I am an artist at the end of the day, and I do want to do things creatively. So there was this project that I had kicking around in my head that I was going to make this Pittsburgh themed rolling pin with, the Heinz ketchup bottle and Willie Stargell statue and all of these really Pittsburgh centric words that we say a lot, like yins, and there's the gum band and things that you guys are probably like, what the hell is that word?
Not an idea. Carry on.
So it's like interstrewn with iconography of the city, buildings, statues, landmarks, those kind of things. And then it also has like our Pittsburghese are the words that are only known in Western Pennsylvania. So it's like scattered throughout that. So I'm really excited about that artwork. And I finally lasered it this week. And I'm super pumped about it. So I did some glaze tests on the map ones that I made. And I think I know the right sequence of glazes that I need to do to get the final look and feel for that. And I'll probably just employ that on the Pittsburgh trays and things that I make with that texture rolling pin. But like, I'm trying to stick to one of my goals of having something for myself in every kiln load. And, pushing myself in a more positive way to, not just push myself to an early grave with like trying to get client work done. But to try to get back to my roots of why I started doing pottery and, trying to embrace that part of me too. Like, okay, I'm not just a business owner. I'm not just a manufacturing horse. I'm like, I started this because I love pottery and I love experimenting and all of that stuff. And I bought that laser because I thought it would be like, to your point, Dan, I put money into something so that I would push to be inspired to use it. And I'm just excited about that rolling pin, and it sounds really stupid when I say it out loud. I'm excited about a rolling pin.
You're talking to the right people, though. You're like, you're excited about the decoration you've done to a rolling pin. You're not excited about the rolling pin.
True. The artwork was like a mix of like me doing illustrations and then me working with AI to get like random objects illustrated in the style that I had been illustrating everything else in. So I like asked Adobe to give me a baseball and give me a football, those kind of things that are like,
Yeah.
I could illustrate those. But I also I was more interested in illustrating things that I took photos of. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to take photos of baseball or a football or a hockey stick. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen. So I did cheat a little. I use my cheat
Is
codes.
it cheating or is it being efficient?
It all depends on opinions are strong
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. So I actually finally found, I've done a few more demonstrations this year, wood turning demonstrations at clubs and stuff, which has been really good. It's been interesting to see the way different groups of people react to different things. I turned up to one last month, I think it was, and it's at the local cattle market. So there are signs up everywhere that say, please be aware that appropriate footwear must be worn as urine and feces can be slippery when found on the floor. And I'm like, which room am I going in for this demonstration? Like, there's a bit of an aroma around the whole site because it is, it is where the cattle market happens. But anyway, it was all good. That wasn't a problem. What was a problem was that the lathe that I was due to turn on had been locked away for security a few weeks before, and no one could find where the key was. Like the guy who had it had gone home. So I was there I had all my tools laid out, I had all my kit, I was prepped and ready, like they had all the cameras up and running. And it's like 5 minutes before I'm due to start, and I'm like, well, this is going to be a virtual demonstration, but in a completely different way, because there's no lathe, and I've got like a 2-hour demo to do with no lathe.
You can talk through every single tool as slowly as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I was weirdly not flustered at all. Like I took a picture and sent it to a group chat of other wood turners who demonstrate, and I was like, what's missing from this picture? And the number one response from everyone was like, the audience. And I'm like, no, I'm stood in the audience. Like, look at it the other way. But I did have several club members come up to me and go, you're not worried? Like, what's the problem? I'm like, well, it's not really my issue. You've booked me to come here and do a demonstration. I've taken my time to come here to do the demonstration. If there's not a lathe and you have to cancel and go home, I still need some form of recompense for this. Like, I have driven here, I have done
to be paid,
my thing. Like, I expect, I'm not necessarily the full rate, and I didn't threaten anything. I'm just like, if there's no equipment that was said to be provided, then that's not really my problem. But anyway, they got the lathe out and it was all good. But the interesting thing from that was there was a lady in the audience who does shop where I work in the day job, and we had a craft market there a couple of weeks later, and she came in, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't recognize her. But she was buying some stuff, and they said, oh, can we get anything else for you? She said, yeah. Oh, by the way, this is all Dan's fault. And I'm like, what have I done? Who's this person? What's going on? Because I'm in work mode, right? Oh, no, because I demonstrated turning like a little bud vase out of some scrap wood as one of my demonstrations. I went out to her stall, and she had like 15, 20 of them out on her stall. But like each one completely different. She'd got this little tiered stand that she'd made for it, and they all had a little thing, and they were really nice. We had a conversation about pricing, because she was like, look, they were really fun to make, but I don't know how much to charge for them. And I said, well, you can always drop the price. I said, try this and try this at an individual and 3 for this price and whatever, and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, you can just drop the price. It's not a problem. But the other side of her stall, so she had one side that was turned stuff, and the other side, everything on it was lasered. It was all like imported cheap chopping board, and then she's lasered stuff onto it, but it wasn't tacky. It wasn't like the whole kind of live, laugh, love kind of thing. It was very well presented and chosen. And I had a look at the bottom of some of her turn things, and on the bottom of her turn things was exactly the type of laser engraving that I've been looking for on my turn stuff for like ages. So it's not burnt in, it's carved out, but using a laser. And I said, did you use a laser for this? She said, oh, yeah. I said, did you do this? She said, oh, yeah. So, right, which laser? Because I have been trying to narrow down which machine I need for this entire time. So we had a bit of a conversation about that. I don't have the spare £1,200 to buy the laser that I need, but that's fine. I'm on the right path now. But also I have her contact details. So she's a wood turner, so she gets all of the aspects of it, of like, oh, but I want to put it on the bottom of a bottle shape, you know, like this kind of thing, and what is and isn't capable. So it's been a good time for me from the point of view of moving things along mentally. Like, I'd kept putting in the back of my mind, I know I need to get a laser, but can I justify the cost? Can I justify the space? If I spend all this money, is it going to be the right one? And all this kind of thing. Whereas now I know it's the right one, and I've got a point of contact of someone who's using it for the exact application I want to use it for. So that's been really good. But the other thing that I found was I shared an all-day demonstration with one of our listeners, actually, at where I work in my day job, wood turning. And it was at an event which had a lot of other wood turners there as well, demonstrating. 5 or 6 of us, I say a lot. I'm trying to think of what a cluster of wood turners would be called. Probably a burr of wood turners.
That sounds appropriate.
Yeah, a burr of wood turners all together. But what was really, really nice was I was one of 6 wood turners there, and the other 5 are very well known, very reputable. They've been turning for, like, some of them 35 years. You know, they're known, and they've got each got their like specific thing. Like, one guy was there, he was turning massive hollow vases out of green wood, so shavings are flying everywhere. There was a lady there doing an awful lot of texturing and spray paint color work and all this kind of stuff, and someone doing boxes, and they're each doing their unique thing, which are quite technically advanced. And I was my first demo of the day was turning little bud vases, so I'm literally there like doing this fairly basic project. But I was just demonstrating and chatting, and I suddenly looked up and realized that I had an audience 3 rows deep with about 10 people to a row.
Oh.
And they're not casually watching. They're not like, oh, what's going on? And then moving on. Like, they actually want to see the finished project. They want to see what I'm doing. And within the first 30 minutes of me being there in finishing a demo and wandering around, I had 3 separate people from different turning clubs ask if I would demonstrate at their club.
Oh, that's good.
So that was a really, really, yes, 100% an ego boost, but also a confirmation of the fact that, because you can go and do these things like one-on-one, oh, I'm stood in front of a group of people and I'm talking or I'm doing a demonstration, but you don't know how it compares to like what other people are doing, or whether people are just being polite, or, you know, oh, well, we always turn up, so we turned up tonight kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're up against, because it wasn't competitive, but you know what I mean, you're up against sort of other people of a much higher caliber, but you've still got your audience. It was just proving the point to me of everyone has an audience, everything you make has an audience. It's just finding it and being able to be comfortable in that zone, and being patient as well. And we won't talk about the fact that 2 of the people who asked if I would demonstrate were from clubs that were a 3.5-hour drive away. But, you know, they still at least asked me, and that's a different conversation.
And I mean, as long as you have the time and they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of them straight up said you would have to do an all-day demonstration for us and it would be an overnight stay. I said, hey, if you're willing to pay and I've got accommodation and the dates line up, I have no problem with that at all. It's fine. You know, we won't talk about the fact that I haven't really got content that I can fill a day with yet, but I'll worry about that when I get booked. Again, date specific. I need the driving force.
Yep.
Excellent. So we've had 3 different sort of starts to the year, really, and you know, some things positive, some things negative, but all 3 of us are still maintaining the status quo. We're all still moving forwards. I won't go as far as to say we're being consistent, but we are all at least doing something a little bit. Some of you may have found this podcast because for whatever reason, I started posting short form videos on our social media. Where are we now? Probably at the beginning of May, maybe a little bit longer ago than that. It'll be interesting to see if I'm still doing that by the time this episode is released. My plan is to do it at least till the end of May, I've enjoyed doing it, and I'm finding it's a lot easier for me to talk to the camera about a quote and a little bit around the quote for 1 to 2 minutes than it is for me to sit there and try and come up with some catchy graphic or video or whatever. So if you have found us because of that, I'd love to know. Either reach out on social media and send us a message, or pop us an email, info@settingupshoppe.com, shop spelled SHOPPE. And if you want me to stop, please by all means also interact and send me those messages. If you have found them at all helpful or just enjoy them or whatever, let us know. Feedback is always welcomed and encouraged. So that's great. But if you wanted to hear any more from the three of us, obviously you can listen to the next episode, listen to the back catalogue, or you can reach us individually. So we have myself is at tarrants.co.uk, TARRANT.co.uk. Heidi is found at Whitehall_pottery, and Rasmus is found at Rasmus Loen, spelt Loen. Collectively, we are Setting Up Shop. So thank you very much for listening. If you want to support us in any way, shape or form, whilst we will always welcome a monetary contribution, that can be done through Patreon. There is no obligation to do so. One of the best ways, or two of the best ways you can support us, are to tell other people about the podcast and actually sort of like send them a link and try and push them and encourage them to listen. And the second one is to leave a review on whatever podcast app you listen to help push it up the rankings and try and get more people to see it. If you see one of our posts or something on social media, maybe reshare it, resend it in your own stories or something like that. All of those would help us greatly, and we appreciate everything that you guys do for us in that regard. But until the next episode then, thank you very much, and we will speak to you soon.
Bye.
See you.